$45,000 to $65,000 a day on food, living rent-free. Like, you could save a lot of money doing this. I mean, is that pretty common for people to go in and 17,000 meals? It is very, very impressive. Welcome everyone back to another reaction video. Today we are checking out how aircraft carriers prepare 17,000 meals a day. That just sounds crazy. Just the title itself explains it all. I mean, I did a video on the aircraft carrier a couple of days ago and these things blew my mind. They really did. And so let's dive a little bit more into it. 17,000 meals a day. I need to see this. Let's check it out.
You may have heard of Meals on Wheels, but have you ever wondered about the naval military equivalent? The United States Navy has officially taken mobile mealtime to the next level. Every day that an American nuclear-powered aircraft carrier spends at sea, it has to provide 3 square meals for the 5,000 hungry sailors who call the ship home. The resulting process is a mind-boggling marvel of culinary engineering. If you're doing the math, I'll spare you the mental gymnastics. That's over 17,000 meals, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Wow.
How, you ask, is this even possible? Let's find out. They say the way to someone's heart is through their stomach. This certainly applies to hungry American sailors of the US Navy. Aboard the most common aircraft carrier in the Navy fleet, the 100,000-ton Nimitz-class vessel, an average crew complement of between 5,000 and 6,000 sailors will spend months on deployment working, sleeping, and eating aboard their city at sea. Whether you're busy scrubbing the flight deck, flying an FA-18F Super Hornet, maintaining the nuclear reactor, or overseeing the arresting gear operation, the alimentary needs of this crew are truly staggering. Feeding thousands of people in a relatively cramped space requires a Herculean logistical effort. On any given day, a carrier's crew can consume more than 1,600 pounds of chicken, 160 gallons of milk, 30 cases of cereal, and 350 pounds of lettuce, noted Chief Petty Officer Naomi Goodwin, herself responsible for preparing officers' meals aboard an aircraft carrier. Because carriers can spend months at sea, they often deplete their perishable items like fruits and vegetables before the deployment is complete. To compensate, they stock up with as much perishable food as possible at the beginning of a deployment. Once the fresh food disappears, canned or dried goods can only get you so far. To maintain morale as stocks dwindle, a carrier's supply crew is regularly in contact with wholesale distributors who work to replenish stocks whenever a carrier comes near a port. When US Navy warships have to resupply at sea, they use a process called underway replenishment. Getting the food aboard is probably the hardest part. The alongside connective replenishment method is the most common form of underway replenishment. When a supply vessel pulls up to the carrier, it must match its speed on a parallel trajectory, a daunting task in rough seas and choppy winds. Once in place, the two ships are connected by a hotline, followed by a much heavier duty messenger line, which facilitates the transfer of heavy pallets loaded with food, mail, fuel, and other supplies. Coasting across the open watery chasm separating the two vessels, the carrier's crew pulls in heavy palletized cargo and begins storing boxes of pineapples, tomatoes, apples, onions, potatoes, and more in one of the carrier's fluorescent-lit refrigeration and dry storage units. Replete with hanging ethylene filters that preserve products over longer periods by trapping gases that cause ripening, refrigeration units are traditionally located in a centralized area several decks beneath the galley. Vertically stacking galleys and storage areas was a deliberate design choice, giving cooks easy access to the ingredients they need at mealtime using hydraulic lifts and elevators. Resupply occurs every week or so, adding between 400,000 and 1 million pounds of food to the carrier's stocks. If necessary, supplies can also be delivered vertically via helicopter or light aircraft when the situation arises. The 5 galleys aboard the Nimitz, commissioned in 1975, differ from their more modern counterpart, the USS Ford supercarrier, commissioned in 2017. While the ships have the same footprint, one journalist observed, space all over the Ford has been reimagined to make carrier life and work better and more efficient. Rather than 5 galleys, the Ford has 2, one centralized in the aft section of the ship, the other forward to serve the carrier's air wing. Alright, so far so good. No one's going hungry.
That actually makes sense because, you know, over time, you know, in the next couple of years, or in the next, let's say 10 to 20 years, you guys are gonna get another aircraft carrier and they're gonna be able to design it to make sure that every single space inside, I guess, is utilized. With 5,000 people on board, you know, you wanna make it an enjoyable experience, not everyone just crammed everywhere, and it's not a nice experience. So that actually makes a lot of sense.
Hungry anytime soon. But what about drinking water? You need a lot of it to hydrate thousands of sailors in what is often a hot and humid work environment. Luckily, modern aircraft carriers have world-class desalination facilities on board. These portable water plants work almost like a distillery. Water is superheated to steam, then condensed using cooled pipes. Minerals are added as the water is filtered for drinking and general use. All this is powered using the ship's nuclear reactor, which itself only has to be refueled every 25 years. Pretty amazing stuff. While we're on the topic of facilities, wondering...
Wait, so were they talking about water that they're getting from the sea and turning it into water? Or was it just water that was on board, stored there for days, weeks, months at a time, and it goes through a certain system to make sure it's just pure and clean?
Wondering what kind of monster kitchen you'd need to service all these sailors?
I would
Here's
imagine.
the thing, it's not about size, it's about efficiency.
Okay.
A carrier's cooking facilities have been well designed to cater to the masses. They have to be. A carrier is designed for efficiency. Below deck, snaking maze-like corridors and tiny rooms take advantage of every inch of available space. Kitchens are cramped, filled to the brim with the latest industrial cooking machinery, huge stoves that make the temperature soar in that confined interior space, automated self-cleaning convection ovens that can cook any kind of meat in a variety of ways, commercial-grade mixing bowls, rows upon rows of warming trays, soup vats, tilt skillets, deep fryers, broilers, commercial toasters, microwaves, food storage containers, drying racks, bussing carts, food processors, prep tables, blenders, and more. All this equipment enables culinary specialists to cook huge batches of food for the sailors aboard. What does it all cost to feed a crew this size?
Everything.
Well, grab your wallet because it'll cost a pretty penny. Senior Chief Francis Pattle, a culinary specialist aboard the George H.W. Bush, estimated that the Navy spends somewhere between $45,000 to $65,000 a day on food at sea. That's $1.8 million a month.
Wow, $45,000 to $65,000 a day on food. $1.8 million a month just on food. It's not including everything to operate an aircraft carrier, that's just on food.
$1 million a month. It's pretty good bang for your buck considering what you get. 16 to 18,000 meals a day, from 6 a.m. breakfasts through to the aptly named mid-rats or midnight rations. But how do the meals actually get prepared? Teams of chefs, known as culinary specialists, form the dream team aboard the carrier. There are around 93 culinary specialists in all who follow a strict 15-day menu cycle to simplify the meal selection process.
Okay.
The regimented cooking process has been optimized for mass production. Cooks spend hours bulk prepping huge batches of food, a constant responsibility that can be monotonous at times.
So you said 15-day rotation. 15-day rotation. And then I'm guessing it goes back from the start. 15 days, I think that's enough. I think if every single one of those days on those 15 days was food that was a little bit different and then it repeated itself, I think 15 is enough for it to not feel like you're just tasting the same thing every day.
To add variety to their own schedules, junior cooks are trained on different tasks to make them more versatile in the galley. It is hard work, sometimes at strange hours. The breakfast shift can wake up as early as 3 a.m. to have enough time to prepare enough pancake batter, sausages, oatmeal, eggs, and bacon to go round. Cooks tend to work 12 to 16-hour shifts that involve prep work, serving, and cleaning. Punctuality and quality are key. Culinary specialists are held to high standards, the same as those they serve on a daily basis. Special meals punctuate an otherwise routine menu offering. Anything from Taco Tuesday to a Mongolian grill and a special birthday meal each calendar month that can include a tablecloth, wine glasses, nice music, and a main course of prime rib or lobster are sure morale boosters. On most naval vessels, officers eat in their own mess, known as a wardroom. Smaller and more refined.
Okay, so just before you mentioned 14 to 16-hour days, you're virtually in your bed and you really doze off for the next day. But within those couple of hours that you have, what do these people actually do? I'm guessing they do have like gyms and stuff. And another thing that it's just like, how do you carry on doing something a little bit different when you're working those long hours? Second thing is, if I was a young person, I'd go work on these aircraft carriers. Because one, you don't have to pay rent or a home. Two, I'm guessing all your meals are provided. You then get paid and you're living rent free. Like, you could save a lot of money doing this. I mean, is that pretty common for people to go in and just go hard? Just like go hard with saving and just work on these for a couple of years, save a lot, then buy a home or whatnot? Is that kind of something that people do?
And then the canteen area. An officer's mess boasts padded chairs, tablecloths, and glasses of Coke garnished with slices of lemon. In the wardroom, cooks stick to the same menu cycle as their counterparts in the general mess. But smaller amounts of people to feed, in the hundreds rather than the thousands, means they can take time to cook and present the food a bit more luxuriously. The wardroom, of course, still isn't the finest dining establishment aboard ship. That is reserved for the captain's cabin, a modest-sized room with hints of the old-fashioned ocean liner about it, where a personal chef diverges from the standard menu, preparing fresh meals for the captain and their guests from whatever ingredients they can find on the ship.
That's cool.
Yes, sailors on deployment tend to eat far better than their land-based counterparts in the field. Nobody eats MREs at sea. Underway replenishment adds freshness to shipboard food, even if it is prepared on an industrial scale. One of the favorite meals at sea is chicken wings, but to serve it, culinary specialists must prepare 1,600 kilograms of chicken each time, a number that reinforces the logistical scale of this insane feeding operation.
That is insane.
To bring in that home-cooked taste, bakers make use of massive 60-pound dough mixers to make their own bread, rolls, cookies, and other baked goods. Cooking meals from scratch, sometimes in the view of the serving area, communicates how much the Navy values its service members. Veterans often complain that naval chow served in decades past was subpar and inedible. Today, that's no longer the case. It may not be your mother's cooking, but daily meals are meticulously planned and served to be as calorically dense and nutrient-rich as possible.
I mean, I'd rather work on these aircraft carriers than exactly what they said compared to their land friends. I'm guessing in the army, they had like full-on packs that they're eating out of. Nothing like this. This is where you want to be. This looks delicious.
They have to be to fortify sailors working hard on their feet, day in, day out.
True.
A look into a daily shift for a culinary specialist reveals how much effort is required to cook for an entire carrier crew. At mealtime, broad, heated grills are prepared and manned by young cooks who have the raw food at hand. If, say, a cook is serving lamb, he arranges lamb chop after lamb chop in neat rows until the entire surface is covered with meat, 150 chops at least. By the time the last one is in place, it's time to return to the beginning and flip the meat over to cook on the other side. If the chefs are cooking roast beef, they will slice roughly 600 pounds of meat per meal. Dinner is perhaps the busiest meal.
That's crazy, 150, let's say lamb chops. And by the time you put them on and covered your whole surface of your barbecue, by the time you get to the end, you're then needing to flip back over because 150 is so many. That's crazy. It's so cool.
By evening, the main eating bay becomes crowded. Serving lines quickly materialize as sailors find their way to the commissary for some hot chow. Each grabs a plate, utensils, a cup, and napkins, cleaned during downtime by members of the culinary specialist crew, and begins indicating what they'd like served. Back in 2011, a journalist for the National News observed this process firsthand. Mashed potato and steak with gravy is proving to be a popular choice, but there's also barbecue chicken, stir-fry, pasta, and chicken with tomato sauce on offer. Three young sailors, Jennifer Penner, Elvin Carmona Rivera, and Sarah Strong, are lingering in the cafeteria area.
Very impressive. Very, very, very impressive. Just the operation that goes to feed 5,000 workers on these aircraft carriers is just mind-blowing. Just even the process of they got to eat obviously the fresh food. And they go to cans. Then just how those pallets just get shipped from one boat to the other or through a cable system. Just even the size, how you said like we work to efficiency. It's about just getting the job done, getting these people fed. Just even they had those different levels of captains had a certain room, they get a private chef and whatnot. You got to make sure your leaders are well fed and able to stay on top of their ball game because they're the ones that are leading the boat. But yeah, overall, again, we have nothing like this here in New Zealand, can't even compare, and it's just awesome to just see the inside. 17,000 meals. It is very, very impressive. If you enjoyed this video and want to watch more videos like this, click here, and if you want to check out my playlist, click here.